Sammy Squirrel was a very small squirrel. He lived in a very large forest. The forest was green and full of trees. Sammy often felt small and shy. The other animals seemed so big and sure of themselves. Soon the leaves would turn. Summer was ending. Winter would be coming to the forest. All the animals were getting ready. Sammy knew he must gather nuts too. He had to be brave and face the busy days ahead. Everywhere Sammy looked, animals scurried and worked. Squirrels were burying nuts. Chipmunks packed their cheeks with seeds, their little mouths bulging. The deer were growing thicker coats. They would need them when the snow came. The birds were preparing to fly south. They flew from branch to branch, chirping excitedly. They were getting ready for their long journey. Sammy wished he could fly south. He felt a little braver when he was hidden in his cozy dray. High in the tallest oak tree, where the branches reached out like ancient arms, lived a creature of great wisdom and age. This was the home of the wise old owl, a guardian of the forest who had seen countless seasons pass. With his wide, knowing eyes, he observed everything that happened below. The forest was his domain, and he knew every creature and every tree. He had witnessed many winters come and go, each one bringing its own challenges and changes. The snow would blanket the ground and the forest would fall silent, but the wise old owl remained vigilant. One day, as he perched high in his tree, he saw storm clouds gathering on the horizon. The sky darkened and the wind began to howl through the branches. The forest animals, busy with their daily activities, were unaware of the impending danger. They went about their tasks, oblivious to the threat that loomed. The wise old owl knew he had to act. He hooted a warning, a sound that echoed through the forest, reaching the ears of every creature. The forest animals stopped their work and looked up. They knew the wise old owl's call and trusted his wisdom. His warnings had saved them many times before. They gathered below his tree, looking up at him with eyes full of trust and concern. The wise old owl spoke to them, his voice calm but urgent. "A storm is coming," he said. "We must prepare." The animals hurried to finish their preparations. They gathered supplies, reinforced their homes, and made sure everyone was safe. The wise old owl watched over them, guiding them with his wisdom and ensuring that they were ready for the storm. As the storm hit, the forest was battered by wind and rain, but thanks to the wise old owl's warning, the animals were safe in their shelters. They listened to the storm rage outside, knowing that they were protected by the wisdom of their guardian. When the storm finally passed, the forest emerged into a calm, quiet dawn. The animals came out of their shelters, grateful for the wise old owl's guidance. They looked up at him, perched high in his oak tree, and knew that they were safe because of his wisdom and care. The wind howled through the trees, the leaves shivered and danced. The sky grew dark. Rain began to fall, big, heavy drops. The animals scurried to their homes. They huddled inside, waiting for the storm to pass. The storm raged through the forest. Thunder boomed, shaking the trees. Lightning flashed, lighting up the sky in a blinding white light. The forest animals had never seen a storm this fierce. High in the branches of the tallest pine tree, a tiny bird chirped in fear. The sky was dark, filled with ominous clouds that threatened to unleash their fury at any moment. The wind howled through the forest, making the trees sway and creak. Among the rustling leaves and bending branches, a small, fragile nest clung desperately to a high branch. It was Pip, a baby bird who had not yet learned to fly south. Pip's feathers were still soft and downy, not yet strong enough to carry him on the long journey that awaited him. He peered over the edge of the nest, his tiny heart pounding with fear as he watched the world below. The ground seemed so far away and the wind so powerful. The wind ripped at his nest, threatening to tear it from the branch. Pip's parents were frantic. They had built the nest with care, weaving twigs and leaves together to create a safe haven for their little one. But now that safe haven was in danger of being destroyed. The nest swayed violently, and Pip clung to the edge, his tiny claws gripping the twigs as tightly as he could. They flew around him, trying to shield him from the storm. Pip's parents darted back and forth, their wings beating furiously as they tried to create a barrier between their precious baby and the raging wind. They chirped and called to him, their voices filled with urgency and love. But no matter how hard they tried, the wind was relentless. But the wind was too strong. It roared through the forest, bending the trees and snapping branches. Leaves were torn from their stems and sent swirling through the air like confetti. The storm showed no signs of letting up, and Pip's nest was in grave danger. The branch it rested on creaked and groaned under the strain, and Pip's parents knew they had to act fast. It was going to blow Pip away. The nest tilted precariously, and Pip's tiny body was buffeted by the wind. He chirped in terror, his eyes wide with fear. His parents chirped back, their voices filled with determination. They had to find a way to save him, but the storm was so fierce and they were running out of time. They needed help, but all the other animals were safe in their burrows. The forest, usually so full of life and activity, was eerily quiet. The squirrels, rabbits, and other creatures had all taken shelter from the storm, huddled in their cozy homes underground. Pip's parents called out, hoping against hope that someone would hear them and come to their aid. But the wind howled on, drowning out their cries. Section 6. Sammy's courage. Sammy watched from his dray. The storm outside was fierce, with the wind howling and the rain pouring down in torrents. He could see the branches of the trees swaying violently, and the sky was dark and ominous. Sammy's heart pounded in his chest as he observed the chaos outside. He had always been cautious, preferring the safety of his cozy dray to the unpredictable world beyond. He saw Pip in danger. Pip, his best friend, was clinging to a branch that looked like it could snap at any moment. The wind was relentless, and Pip's small frame was being tossed about like a leaf in a storm. Sammy's eyes widened in fear as he realized the gravity of the situation. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, Pip could be in serious trouble. He knew he had to do something. Sammy's mind raced as he considered his options. He had never been particularly brave, but the thought of losing Pip gave him a newfound sense of determination. He couldn't just sit there and watch his friend suffer. He had to find the courage within himself to face his fears and take action. Sammy was afraid of the storm. The howling wind and the driving rain made him want to retreat further into his dray, to hide from the world until the storm passed, but he couldn't do that, not when Pip needed him. The fear gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. He was afraid of heights. The thought of climbing out into the storm, of navigating the swaying branches high above the ground, made his stomach churn, but he couldn't let that stop him. He had to be brave, for Pip's sake. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves, but he was even more afraid for Pip. The thought of something happening to his friend was more terrifying than any storm or height. He couldn't bear the idea of losing Pip. That fear, that deep-seated worry for his friend's safety, gave him the strength he needed to push past his own fears. Sammy took a deep breath. He closed his eyes for a moment, gathering his courage. He could do this. He had to do this. For Pip. He opened his eyes, a newfound determination shining in them. He was ready. He scurried out of his dray and began to climb. The wind whipped around him and the rain pelted his fur, but he didn't let it deter him. He moved quickly, his small body agile and sure-footed despite the treacherous conditions. He climbed quickly, his little claws digging into the bark of the tree. Each step was a battle against the elements, but he pressed on, driven by the need to reach Pip. The branches swayed and creaked under the force of the wind, but Sammy's determination never wavered. The wind howled around him and the rain soaked through his fur, but Sammy didn't care. All that mattered was getting to Pip. He could see his friend up ahead, still clinging to the branch, and he knew he was getting closer. With one final burst of energy, Sammy pushed himself forward, determined to save his friend no matter what. Section 7. A perilous climb. Up and up Sammy climbed, higher and higher. The wind tore at him, trying to knock him from the tree. The rain blinded him, making it hard to see, but Sammy did not give up. He had to reach Pip. Branches swayed precariously beneath him. Lightning flashed, momentarily blinding him. Still, Sammy climbed, his small heart pounding with determination. He would save Pip no matter the danger. Section 8. A hero's welcome. Finally, Sammy reached Pip. He carefully grabbed the tiny bird in his teeth. Holding on tight, Sammy made his way back down the tree. He was still afraid, but he was also proud. He had saved Pip when the storm passed. The animals emerged from their homes. They cheered for Sammy, the bravest squirrel in the forest. Pip's parents sang Sammy's praises. Sammy had faced his fears and saved Pip. Section 9. True Bravery. Sammy learned a valuable lesson that day. Bravery wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about doing the right thing, even when you were afraid. Sammy might be small, but he had a big heart. From that day on, Sammy was no longer the shy, timid squirrel. He knew that even the smallest creature could be brave. He had shown them all, and most importantly, himself. He had shown true bravery.